Krishna is telling him it's not about your own so-called happiness or your own sense gratification. It's actually about pleasing Krishna and surrendering to Krishna, and that's what really matters. So he tells Arjuna, "Do thou fight for the sake of fighting," which just fight for Krishna, without considering happiness or distress, loss or gain, victory or defeat. He doesn't have to come out on top as the big winner of the battle. He doesn't have to be the big guy. He doesn't have to be the best fighter or the best temple president or the best book distributor or the best kirtanir or the best cook. He just has to do that activity for Krishna's pleasure. And we see in the nectar of devotion, Anyabilashita shunyam, jnana karmadyanavritam, anukulyena krishnanu, shilanam bhaktir uttama. That devotional service, one, it's anukulyena krishnanu. It's done favorably. It's done as Krishna likes. So it doesn't have to be, okay, I'm going to do the kirtan in a total rock out, rock star way that I like, and it'll be fired up, and I'll be happy, and everyone will look at me and see how awesome and I'll play the mridanga in such a way that someone sees my muscles and this and that. It's actually not done how I like, but how Krishna likes. And the same thing for any service that someone's doing. Someone's trying to do book distribution, and we hear so much that you should make a good impression. So I'm going to put all of my effort, not just to, I'm going to actually forget about distributing the book and just try to make a good impression. I want to be seen as a really good guy, a really sweet guy. So I'll put all my effort into seeming really sweet and hoping that the karmis really like me and see how amazing I am. And then at the end of the day, no books went out, and I preached to one Christian guy for 2 hours. So that would not be favorable, or as Krishna likes. But we see that devotional service, it's done unmotivated. There's no motivation for it, that I need to get something out of it for myself. And it's done uninterrupted. There's no break. There's some time for devotional service and then some time for Maya. I've got a little time for Krishna and a little time for me. No, it's not like that, but actually the devotee, they're fully engaged. Arjuna's about to be in a battle. He has to be fully engaged in the battle. If he's thinking, okay, I'm going to shoot some arrows half the day, and then I'll take a little time to scroll on my phone on YouTube, and then I'll do a little, prajalpa with the guy on the other chariot and talk about, some drama back at home in the city or whatever. He's going to get killed that way. So it has to be uninterrupted and unmotivated. He's fighting just for the sake of Krishna. And even if he dies, actually, he gets the benefit, because everyone on the battlefield is there with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So one, if a Kshatriya dies, they go to the heavenly planets. And two, because Krishna himself is there, all these people are getting the benefit. We see even the demons get benefited when they come up against Krishna, because they're seeing Krishna. And he's supremely pure. And not only is he supremely pure, he's supremely merciful. So we see when Putana, the witch, approached Krishna with poison on her breast to kill him when he was a baby, Krishna took the good thing in that. So he said, okay, she's approaching me as a mother, offering this service. So even after killing Putana, she became one of his mothers in the spiritual world. And in the Garga Samhita, there's a similar example, how we hear Kamsa, he was completely pummeled by Krishna like anything. And then Balaram, he killed Kamsa's other brothers because Krishna had to kill Kamsa. It was personal, and he was the only one who could kill Kamsa. But it's not so good to kill your own uncle like this. So Balaram, he killed the rest of Kamsa's brothers. But we see later on there's a large sacrifice going on, I think by Ugrasena, and Kamsa and his brothers, they all show up there in four-armed Vishnu forms, because after Krishna killed them, they received this great benediction from Krishna. They got this type of liberation where you get a form that looks like Krishna. So we see if even the demons and the enemies of Krishna are benefited so much by coming in contact with him, then what to speak of for a devotee? So there's no fear in fighting for Krishna. A devotee doesn't have to worry that, okay, if I go out today, it'll be too cold. Or if I try to serve my spiritual master the way my spiritual master instructed, I'll be, it'll be too much. I can't handle it. Well, that doubt is completely absurd, actually, because the spiritual master knows the position of the devotee. So as the transparent via medium of Krishna, he's giving the perfect instructions on how this conditioned living entity can come back to Krishna. So whatever doubts are there, they don't need to be there, because we see even the enemies of Krishna, they're getting the benefit like anything. Even the demons who try to kill Krishna, they're getting the benefit like anything. So why not just follow the orders of Srila Prabhupada and follow the orders of our spiritual master? There's no loss because they're fully in connection with Krishna. So if we follow their instructions, then we'll be fully in connection with Krishna. Yasyasti bhaktir bhagavati kinchana samasate. Dang, what is that verse? Here, I'll just pull it up. There's a really important verse that one who has implicit faith in the orders of the spiritual master and in Krishna, to that person, all the imports of Vedic knowledge are revealed. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, oh, sorry, this is it. Yasadeve parabhaktir yatadeve tata guru tasyete katita hyarta prakashante mahatmanaha. Sorry, I might have been just making up a new verse just a minute ago. Only unto those great souls who have implicit faith in both the Lord and the spiritual master are all the imports of Vedic knowledge automatically revealed. So everything is there in the instructions of the spiritual master, and there's no fear for the devotee. For one who's following the instructions of the spiritual master, he's never separated from his spiritual master. He's always there. So what fear does the devotee have to have? There's no loss in that activity, and there's only the gain of pure devotional service and the gain of going back to Godhead. So all the instructions of Srila Prabhupada and our spiritual master are there for bringing us up out of this conditioned existence. Like we were hearing in one of the other texts, how the Vedas, they mainly deal with the three modes of material nature. So they're mainly, materialistic, showing people how they can be elevated in their material life and things like this. But Krishna is instructing Arjuna to become transcendental to all these modes of nature, actually, to rise above them, be free from all dualities and from all anxieties for gain and safety, and be established in the self. So in our state, unless any of us is a completely liberated Paramahamsa in the temple room right now, then we'll do Jayam Vishnupad to you. But if we're not, then that means we're conditioned by these three modes of material nature. So we're completely dependent actually on someone who's beyond the modes of material nature in order to get out of them. So that is our spiritual master. And if we, take the time to submissively hear from him, that sound vibration is completely purifying us and getting us out of this very low condition in the material world. And if we take the small effort, a little bit of sincerity, a little bit of endeavor to follow his instructions, and all the benefit is there. So we see Srila Prabhupada explained that if one doesn't rise before 4 a.m., there's no question of spiritual life. Those are his words exactly. If you don't rise before 4 a.m., then there's no question of spiritual life. So we see it's very important that we follow these instructions. We rise early, we come to Mangalarti, have a fired up Mangalarti, do the whole morning program, fired up japa. Because these things are what pull us out of the modes of material nature. Without these instructions, then we're still, it's not like the Christians where, okay, if I just believe in Jesus or if I just believe in Krishna, then I go back to Godhead. But Krishna is giving us the instructions that we need to get liberated from this very low condition in this material world. So we have to do our effort of grabbing onto that rope of the instructions of the spiritual master. And if we do them, then all benefit is there. So rising early before 4 a.m., always, attending Mangalarti, fired up japa, 16 rounds of the Maha Mantra, strictly following the regulative principles, being around devotees. When we're not around devotees, we get depressed. If we're not around devotees, everything becomes very confusing. But when we're around devotees, then there's like an equal, it's a pushing movement. The Hare Krishna movement is a pushing movement. So when we're around devotees, you feel that push that, okay, I have to perform devotional service, and I have to perform it in the way that's given in all of these books of Srila Prabhupada. So if we're around devotees, we'll get the enthusiasm to actually follow these orders of our spiritual master. And then like this, we can make gradual advancement towards going back home, back to Godhead. But the more one strays away from the orders of the spiritual master, from the orders of Krishna, and there's so many negative effects, and Krishna is going over some of them here. Uh, we see he chastised Arjuna in so many ways. So if we just follow the orders of Krishna, all the benefit is there. So that means, we hear the Bhagavatam every day. Shinvatam Swakata Krishna, Punya Shravana Kirtana, Pridyantasto Hyabadrani, Vidunoti Suhritsatam. Just regularly attending classes on the Bhagavatam, all inauspicious things in the heart are destroyed almost to zero. Because those sounds that are coming from the Bhagavatam and the speaker of the Bhagavatam, they're transcendental, they're pious actually in themselves when properly heard and chanted. So just by hearing the Bhagavatam, we get purified. So many processes of devotional service. Just by taking Krishna Prasadam, we get purified. And that means Krishna Prasadam that's cooked by devotees. Unfortunately, when we're traveling for book distribution, we see it in so many places when we stay at devotees' homes that there's always some secret stash of karmi grains. Or sometimes it's not so secret. Sometimes it's right there on the counter, a big loaf of bread cooked by some demon in a grocery store. But the problem is that Lord Chaitanya explains in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that if you eat grains cooked by non-devotees, the mind becomes like stool. And when the mind is like stool, you can't actually remember Krishna. You can't think of Krishna or his instructions. So these basic instructions are there by Srila Prabhupada and our spiritual master to save us from forgetfulness of Krishna. And you can see in the early days in New York City, Srila Prabhupada, he made this little note that he put up in the temple room that was all these instructions for devotees. And they're basic instructions, but they're very helpful for everyone to follow. Unfortunately, though, we often see a lot of them aren't being followed, like this thing with eating grains cooked by non-devotees. Because when someone's cooking, their consciousness goes into the grains. It goes into whatever they cook. Even karmi cooks have some idea about this. Like when I was in college, we knew this really nice baker, and he would bake the best sourdough breads in the whole city in Morgantown, West Virginia, and everyone would go crazy for his bread. And whenever he would bake, he would put on some classical music, and he would keep the whole place really clean, and he would keep the atmosphere kind of calm, because he even had some idea that consciousness goes into cooking when you're cooking food. So even karmis have some idea about this. And then we see also, it's described in Srila Prabhupada's books, that when someone is cooking, their consciousness is going to go into that food. So if someone eats something cooked by non-devotees, then their whole mind becomes so contaminated. And you can see it. Sometimes it might accidentally happen if someone's traveling or whatever. They might take something somewhere that was cooked by non-devotees, and your mind just becomes so nasty. Like you go to, Srila Prabhupada also says this, that you have horrible dreams. You go to sleep and you just have dreams that you're in some sort of like action movie zombie apocalypse. I don't know why, but that's usually what the kind of dream that comes up. Maybe because that's what people watch on TV and everything. But we see people can get so contaminated just by eating food that's prepared by non-devotees, breads, cereals, all of these things. So that's another important thing for devotees to follow, is just taking prasadam, which means it was cooked with love and devotion, not lust and commotion, for Krishna and offered to him. And then after that, the devotees take this sumptuous prasadam and they become so satisfied. They become so blissful. So all of these things are there, not to like disturb us in our Krishna consciousness or make us feel like there's too many rules. Why do I have to wake up early or only eat this or chant this or whatever? But all of these things are there because it's our natural state actually to be engaged in Krishna service, and all of these things help us remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There's one verse here that would be pretty fired up to pull up. Can you pull up Bhagavad Gita 3:11? And it's the last paragraph. Just on the topic of Krishna Prasadam. Did you get it? As it will be explained, this is the last paragraph. As it will be explained in the following verse, by performance of yajna, one's eatables become sanctified, and by eating sanctified foodstuffs, one's very existence becomes purified. And by the purification of existence, finer tissues in the memory become sanctified. And when memory is sanctified, one can think of the path of liberation. All these combined together lead to Krishna consciousness, the great necessity of present-day society. So we see, by performance of yajna, one gets sanctified eatables. By eating sanctified foodstuffs, one's whole existence becomes purified. So what to speak of eating unsanctified foodstuffs? Your whole existence becomes contaminated, and then you can't think of Krishna. But by eating sanctified foodstuffs, prasadam, that's offered to the Lord, cooked by devotees who are following, chanting 16 rounds, following the regulative principles, then their very existence becomes purified. And from the purification of existence, finer tissues in the memory are sanctified. So like this, so much advancement is there to be made just by taking Krishna prasadam. So these are just a few points on fighting for Krishna. Does anyone have any comments, questions, chastisements, corrections?
A couple things. So first of all, in terms of eating prasadam that's not cooked by non-devotees, that that has a big, huge impact. I've noticed some things as well, kind of small effects. It's
when
like
you eat prasadam that's cooked by non-devotees.
Sorry, eating food cooked by non-devotees. Sorry about that. Apologies.
Those are some fired up non-devotees.
Another question too. It's a small question though. Eunuch. I never heard that word. What does that word mean?
Eunuch. It's when he's like castrated, right? Like a bull. A eunuch. He doesn't have genitals, and so Krishna calls Arjuna a eunuch for abandoning his duty. So at least to not be called a eunuch, we should stick to our duties, the duties that Srila Prabhupada gave us, rising before 4 a.m., doing a fired up Mangalarti, morning program, japa, 4 regulative principles strictly, taking only Krishna prasadam. The men and the women don't intermingle. There's none of that going on. What else? Distributing books. This is one of Srila Prabhupada's main instruction, to distribute his books. So we see all over his books, he's talking about distributing his books. And then you can get books that are just about distributing his books, like this orange one on the back by the Bhagavatam. So if we go out for book distribution, however, you can keep a small book in your pocket. You can take, whenever you go out for Harinam, there should always be books there for sure. There's so many fired up instructions about both of them going on side by side. You got both mridangas, the small mridanga, the one you're playing, and the big mridanga, the brihat mridanga. That's the books. Because those, the sound vibrations heard around the world. Someone might take it, go to Japan, go to Iraq, go to wherever. So that's the Brihad Mridanga. So however, you just bring some books with you wherever you go, whenever you go somewhere, and you distribute some, and like that, you're fighting for Srila Prabhupada, you're fighting for Krishna. And also you're avoiding being called a eunuch. But your mind might tell you when you get out there, okay, it's too cold, there's so many things. But you should chastise your mind, just like Krishna chastised Arjuna. Mind, stop being a eunuch. It's time to distribute books. We read when we're at the temple. We, associate with devotees. We hang out with the devotees when we're taking prasadam. All these other things are already taken. I take care of, my health in some way. Take some nice prasadam. Maybe I like stretch for a second. It's taken care of. But now's the time to distribute books. So just do it. Fight. You don't have to be attached to. I got to be the biggest book distributor today. I got to do the best. Or just the fact that you try is pleasing to Krishna. That's your duty. Okay, anything else? Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.